Hey everybody! Welcome back to Northernlion, place of Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus. That was the classic little vocal fry pause where I waited to see if OBS was actually working. But dude, start with Mega. 04HF76G9. Stats are good, but like, I mean, we have Mega. So I'm not saying it's an automatic victory, because we've unfortunately lost some runs that probably should have been automatic victories recently, but it is very good. I meant to say, dude, you know, despite the fact, sometimes people complain about OBS. If you're not in the biz, and that's not, you know, snobby. One of the interesting things about YouTube and Twitch is that, like, unlike most businesses, there's literally, like, zero barrier to entry. You know, if you're thinking like, you know what, I'm gonna start my own construction company. I've always had a passion for construction. You need, like, I mean, you need laborers, you need raw materials, drywall, rebar, girders, etc., etc. You need heavy machinery, you need front-end loaders, forklifts, I don't know, the ability to make makeshift elevators while you're putting the real elevator. Like, the barrier to entry is enormous. Hey, I want to open my own, you know, grocery store. You need location, you need staff, you need inventory, you need a point of sales system, you need somebody out there getting relationships with, like, local farmers or something like that. You want to start a YouTube channel, you want to start a Twitch channel, all you gotta, it costs you, you know, this is gonna sound a little, like, is a little classist, for sure. Did I not even go to the item room? I think I didn't even go to the item room. Whatever, dude, it's a new era. No item strats. But, like, all in, you're definitely under, like, $1,000. And I know that that's a lot of money, but I'm talking about, like, microphone, webcam, capture card, you know, upgrades necessary to your PC to get things done. That's a really low all-in cost. People buy that for recreation, you know, and you don't even have to get it all at once. But anyway, what I was gonna say is, if you're not in the biz, you might not care about OBS, and that's fine, but OBS is actually, like, the greatest thing. They deserve, like, some kind of lifetime achievement award. Did I say ward? like Robin to Batman? They deserve some sort of lifetime achievement award. It's free, open source software that enables, like, probably like 85% of streamers on Twitch, and, you know, a lot of YouTubers as well, although I don't think it's caught on as much there, to essentially do their jobs. We should definitely go for broke on this one. Okay, we're gonna grab this, we're gonna see what you can do here. It's amazing, and back in the day, like, you know, if you weren't there, it sucked. It was like an eldritch horror trying to figure out how do I record videos? Well, okay, well, you can use Fraps. Here's the downside with Fraps. An hour of video is like 80 gigabytes. And then you gotta process that with an audio track that you record in Audacity. So basically, in 2012, the time it took to make a 45-minute video for YouTube was like 2 hours. I'm not even being facetious. You know, you'd have to take the 45 minutes to record the video in the first place. Then you would have to match up the audio and video frame, or like the audio track with the video frame, so it's actually synced in whatever your rendering program was. Then you'd have to actually render it, which typically, at least back then, was about a minute per minute of video. So it was like a 1-to-1 ratio. Oh, game almost crashed. That's what I get for talking about how easy modern technology has made things. Now, what's the amount of time? I mean, if you're gonna edit, obviously, like, there's people on YouTube, they release, like, one video every 6 months, and there's probably, like, you know, 400 hours worth of work that goes into it. I'm just talking about one of my videos with, like, almost no editing whatsoever, or quite literally no editing whatsoever the vast majority of the time. It's 45 minutes in, you know? Whatever the amount of time for the video to be produced is, that's how much time it takes for it to be done. Yeah, it still has technical problems sometimes, but dude, it's incredible. It's so much better now. And if you didn't want Fraps, you could use DX Story. Okay, but DX Story is a Japanese piece of software. The localization was really bad. The options menu didn't make like any sense, and for some people, it just didn't work whatsoever. Okay, so you could use Hypercam, but then you know the audio quality is really bad. Okay, but you could use Camtasia Studio, but once every 6 videos, the audio starts to get desynced from the video. You know, it was it took a while for somebody to come out with an actual like 100% industry standard piece of software, and I gotta tell you, man, I'm thankful for OBS every single day. As instead of, I mean, probably do both, but I was gonna say instead of donating to Wikipedia, should be donating to OBS. And by instead of, I mean in addition to. Sorry, my brain got scrambled by the bomb room back there. I don't care, I'll be the caricature. I'll be the guy who pays for WinZip. I'll be the guy who donates to Wikipedia. Wikipedia is like actually, it's in my top 5 favorite websites for sure. You know, and let me just be real with you. I pay to use YouTube. They take a significant cut right off the front of my paycheck. I pay to use Twitch, more or less, you know. I mean, they take a cut of my services to begin with, and then on top of that, I have the, you know, actual subscriptions I maintain. I'd like a battery, or I'd like a key, please, so I could go to the item room. I have a feeling that's not gonna work out here, but that's okay. We'll look for the secret room. We got plenty of time. I mean, like, it's popping. Please. So I feel like I should, you know, pay for Wikipedia. It's a great website. And I feel like there's 2 kinds of people out there. There's people who are like, why would you pay for that? It's free. And then there's people who are like, it's only free because some people are paying for it. That's like the... You know, I like to go to museums. I don't go as often. I mostly only go when I'm like... You know, if I'm in another part of the world. It's weird. Like, all the touristy stuff in Vancouver, I've basically never done. I've never been to the Vancouver Art Gallery. I've never been to Science World. We don't have that much touristy stuff here. I've been to Stanley Park many times. But not to like, hey, let's go see Stanley Park. I've been to Stanley Park because I'm like, man, the bike route there is amazing. Hold on, we're getting closer to Beelzebub. Not quite there yet. But then when you go to another city, you're like motivated to see the touristy stuff. In a way, it's like, yo, sackhead. In a way, it's like because of the fact that you live there, you're like, I don't need to see it, it'll be there forever. It's probably a bad attitude. But when I go to a museum and it's like suggested donation, $10, I'm like, here's $10. I don't go, well, they don't have a security guard, I'm just gonna hop the turnstile and get in for free. Some people are like, I'm gonna put in $100. Some people are like, I'm gonna get in for free and then also be a nuisance. Depends who you are. You know, it depends on your type of personality. I really thought we were gonna get hit there. I'm okay being the guy who donates to Wikipedia, although I don't think I did it last year. So mostly I'm getting a lot of compliments without having actually, you know, taken the task this year. But you know, there's always, I just wait until Jimbo hits me with the guilt trip. Whenever Jimmy Wales hits me with that guilt trip, that's like if everybody that used Wikipedia donated $3, we would have enough money to run forever. When I see that, I'm like, oh, Jim, you're right. This website is worth more than a cup of coffee. You got me. Don't you hate it? This is I'm changing directions on this one now. You gotta like be accepting of where I'm going commentarily here, because the commentary of this episode, don't you get canceled on me, thank you. The commentary of this episode is very hard to come to terms with because of the fact that essentially we're doing like so much damage, the whole run is probably going to be done in like under 20 minutes. So we gotta make, these bits have to develop insanely quickly. Don't you hate when you have a preconceived notion towards somebody that maybe they're a jerk, they're selfish, blah, 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 and then they do like an altruistic action that makes you rethink things? Movies do this all the time. You know, a great, in my opinion at least, a great example, is not a movie, but of a television program, is in Better Call Saul. I'm not gonna, it's a character spoiler, but it's not a major plot spoiler. You're set up to believe, when you're introduced to the character of Howard, who I can't remember his name at this point. Howard Hamlin? That sounds right. When you're introduced to Howard, you're supposed to believe, oh, he's a rich guy, silver spoon in his mouth, he's a total snob, you know? He's the villain, as presented in Season 1. But then over the course of the, you know, the playing out Season 1 is also the future seasons, he, you know, you recognize, if you actually think about it critically and don't just go on the fact that he's a handsome guy, he's wearing an expensive suit, and he talks like a snob, everything else, he's actually like one of the most honorable characters. I don't think we can take it. It's just a little too risky. He's one of the most honorable characters in the entire show, at least up through the end of Season 3. I don't know what happens after that. Only I'm allowed to spoil. You don't get to spoil, okay? That happened to me at the gym today. You know, there's like, I mean, there's gym etiquette. And there was somebody in the gym that wasn't following gym etiquette, you know? One of the things is very not okay or frowned upon to do is, you know, when the gym is busy, you use like 8 different machines simultaneously. So you go over, oh, I'm going to do a set of lat pull downs. Then you go, oh, I'm going to do a seated cable row. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do a face pull. And then you're like, and you're doing, because the thing is, it saves you time. It's an inherently selfish act. That doesn't necessarily make it bad. If nobody's in the gym, please, by all means, do it. It saves you time, but it also compromises a lot of machines at the gym for other people. You know, you could do the sets in sequence instead, but it would make your workout slightly longer. So it's an inherently selfish action, although that doesn't necessarily make it bad. So some dude was in the gym and he's doing a circuit on like 9 different machines simultaneously, and I was like, man, look at this guy. Who does he think he is? Taking up every machine in the gym. This is ridiculous. And I had this preconceived notion that he was kind of a selfish, you know, maybe not a jerk, but I'm going to say jerk anyway. And then he came up to me. This is after like 30 minutes of believing that he was my most hated enemy. And he was like, hey, excuse me, is this your key? I found it on the ground over there. And yep, it was my key. It had fallen out of my pocket. Out of the pocket of my shorts while I was working out. And it would have been a huge inconvenience for me to have lost my key. So I was very upset with myself and also with him. Because I was like, here, you know, I was thinking that you were a selfish jerk. And then here you go, proving that, you know, all people are nuanced in their own ways. And if anything, you know, people have good and bad sides. And I have demonstrated that. My bad side was maybe jumping to conclusions about your personality without actually having met you. But there's another twist to this story, because you're like, oh, it's a feel-good story about enlightenment. Sort of yes, but also sort of no. Because, like 5 minutes later, my man left the gym and he didn't wipe down any of the machines that his sweaty butt crack had been sitting on for like half an hour. And I was like, dude, this story has too many twists and turns. I was like, you're selfish, but you're altruistic. But also, that's gross, man. Come on. I don't know. It's a complicated system is all I'm trying to say. Have we been to the item room on this floor? This is a... When your run is this fast, and then also you have no map, I don't know where I am right now, dude. I'm spinning in infinity. I do, you know, apparently I only talk about like 4 different movies. I've only seen 4 movies in my whole life. But a movie that does this very well, and that I related to in a big way, was this movie called Booksmart that came out this year. I thought it was a great subversion of like the classic kind of like high school nerd trope. This is not a spoiler again. This is like literally within the first 10 minutes of the movie. The plot of the movie is there's two like really, book-smart young girls. They've dedicated their entire high school career to besmirching their social lives so that they can focus on getting into good schools and you know, they have big plans for themselves. Let's put it that way. And then they find out, you know, they would look down on everybody else at their school. They thought they had taken this gamble that like, okay, I'm going to completely disregard my social life now in order to put myself further ahead of my life in the future. And then they started talking to the other kids of their school that they think are, you know, we've definitely been in here, that they think are like academic losers or whatever. And they find out like, oh, yeah, I'm going to Yale. Yeah, I'm going to Stanford. Oh, I'm not going to college. I got an offer from Google right out of the... There's a great line that I'll just ruin. I hate when people steal jokes from movies and tell them worse, but the guy's like, yeah, well, don't worry, I'm not going to college. I got an offer for Google to go work at them. I mean, sure, it's not Facebook, but it's still pretty good. I was like, oh, good one. Anyway, movies, when they do that, I always love it. Because, you know, I was kind of guilty of the same thing in high school. I was like, you know, I was book smart. I didn't really actively shy away from my social life. To be honest, I was not like... I wasn't a popular kid in high school, but I wasn't an unpopular kid. We just went to like this weird feeder school. I'm gonna stick with mega. We went to this weird feeder school where, you know, everybody, you know, we lived like potentially 40 kilometers away from one another. So until we got our driver's licenses when we were, you know, 16, and I turned 16 in 11th grade, it was pretty tough to even just hang out outside of school, you know? So I don't consider myself to have really actively besmirched my social life or, you know, done anything at the expense of my social life. It's kind of just, you know, circumstance. But either way, I was like, man, I'm crushing in high school. All these other losers are drinking like 4 beers, but that's okay. Because, you know, I'm going to be further ahead in life by the time we get to, like, you know, the real adult stage of life. And then I realized, first off, it's a very, let me go. And then let me back. No! That was very dumb. It's a very bad and snobby attitude. But also, that's, like, not necessarily the case. If you're watching this, you're in high school, maybe you're in college right now. It's not the case most of the time. Some of the people that I went to high school with, that, you know, academically were not very strong in high school necessarily, have become very, or at least pretty successful in their adult lives. And, you know, like, I'm not saying, like, oh, they founded a startup where, you know, oh, one of them founded Uber. You know, it's not like that, but, you know, they own their own businesses, or, you know, they hold, like, executive level positions at companies. And, you know, I'm talking, obviously, economically is what I'm focusing on here. But yeah, it's successful in terms of like their social and family lives as well. And you know why it is? Here's a little, here's my insight into it. It's because your life is not really defined forever by the grades that you got when you were 16 years old. At least not here. Don't get me wrong, it helps and it can give you a head start. Like the difference between like an honor roll student and then like somebody who maybe drops out of high school when they're in 10th or 11th grade. This is not looking down on either of those people, but depending on where they're trying to get in life, the person who drops out of high school in 10th or 11th grade is gonna have a harder time. You know, they're gonna have more resistance, more friction, more obstacles, you know, to reaching those same academic highs. It's not to say they couldn't, you know, go back to school or get their GED, go back to college when they're an adult and, you know, be more motivated than the person who maybe had it a little easier. But, you know, you find yourself sometimes, I guess the best way to describe it is like, you know, the people that I went to high school with, and I want to be clear, I didn't have a bad high school experience. I wasn't like bullied or anything like that. If anything, I was kind of a jerk because I was like just quietly looking down on people who did worse than me, which is a pretty bad attitude. But at the same time, I'm willing to forgive myself for it because, you know, it was 14 years ago, and it changed a lot since then. But you know, for the rest of your life, if you don't talk to these people, they're forever gonna be, you know, John Johnson, age 17. But John Johnson, you know, he's living his life now. He's not 17 anymore. John Johnson's 30. You know, he's changed a lot, maybe. Or maybe he's exactly the same. There's definitely guys I went to high school with where, you know, I look at them on Facebook and I'm like, yeah, you're living the same life. I understand. But then there's, you know, guys who maybe they, you know, and it doesn't just have to be guys, but, you know, guys who cut up in school. I don't like where my HP is at. I think we gotta bounce, unfortunately. If I didn't have the curse, I would take Death's Touch. I think we made the right decision, believe it or not. But, you know, they goofed around in high school, and for the rest, you know, for like 10 years in my head, I was like, oh, he doesn't respect authority, and he's got a bad attitude, and I'm like, nah, dude, he was just 17 years old. Probably went to college, you know. So he got a more mature attitude. Like, it's been literally like half of his life. You don't know who this guy is anymore. You know what I mean? I'm trying to figure it out here. You know, I do think people have like the same flavor, you know, through their whole lives to some extent. You know, there's elements of my personality that have been there since I was, you know, 4 years old, probably. But there's also elements that have come about, you know, more recently. People change is what I'm trying to say. And all of these people that I thought had no respect for, you know, a good day's labor when they were in high school. If anything, I have to admit, I think they had it figured it out, you know? Cut up a little bit in high school, have a good time, enjoy those days, probably go to a slightly less prestigious college, but who cares? It's undergrad. Sort out your attitude there, and then start your career path, you know? Anyway, I'm not telling you how to live. I'm just saying if you're in high school right now, it's kind of a different story, but I do encounter people, and I think we all have these tendencies to some extent, but I encounter people that, you know, they still hold on to baggage. They're in their 20s or 30s. They hold on to baggage about the way that, you know, people behaved in high school, and I'm like, you know, I always think about, like, if you were, like, overweight and you got bullied for being overweight. That sucks really bad. I have a lot of sympathy for that. I was a chubster when I was a kid, too. Hold on. Just wanted to make sure we were making the right decision there. I think we don't need permanent Polaroid invincibility. Things are popping off here. If you use that, like, as a revenge motivation to get into good shape, I support that in a big way. Revenge is a very powerful motivator. However, if, you know, and, you know, this, I don't think it's controversial. This is just my opinion on this subject, though. If you're now, like, 20 years out of high school, and your main motivation for being in good shape is still that you want to show the 16-year-old kids you went to high school with that, like, who's chubby now, Dave? Yeah, Dave, now that you've had 4 kids, not in such good shape now anymore, are you, Dave? And the thing, Dave is probably, like, you know, remorseful about the fact that he called you chubby. He's probably dealt with that baggage himself throughout the years. But also, you know, he's an adult now. He's got different problems. Does this make... I'm trying to think of the better way to describe it, because I don't think I did a good job. If somebody's like, you know, they're 18, and they're like, I'm tired of being made fun of for being out of shape, and they get into good shape, that's sick. But if that same person is there at the age of 40, and they're like, yeah, my main motivation for being in good shape is that I was, you know, called tubby in high school, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, again, it's one of those things where the good probably, the end justifies the means, is a good example of that idiom, I guess. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, you gotta start loving yourself. Stop doing positive things for yourself just because you want to make, you know, a person that only exists now in your mind feel bad. Start doing it because you're worth it, buddy. That's my 2 cents on that subject, at least. Sorry, I'd like to be more nuanced, but again, the episode is too fast. Mega has compromised my ability to have a nuanced discussion. And for that, I'll never forgive it. And I say its punishment is to show up on every run from now until the end of time. That's my thoughts on that. You know, and this is not really fair, because I have no idea who the Kardashians are. Like, I have watched more material related to... You know who... let's reframe the bit. You know who the Kardashian I know the most about is? Robert Kardashian. One of O.J. Simpson's lawyers from his famous 1995 trial. As portrayed by David Schwimmer in The People vs. O.J. Simpson. The miniseries with Cuba Gooding Jr. I don't know anything about the Kardashians, essentially, apart from that. And I hate the idea that people, they use them as like a shorthand for like the downfall of modern society. Dude, there's been garbage on TV forever. You think our generation invented celebrity worship? They've had gossip magazines in the grocery store checkout aisle since I was born. The people I see buying them are almost exclusively like 40 years older than I am. So don't put this on my generation. That being said, I did see somehow on Twitter, I guess, that one of the Kardashians had released a book called like The Perfect Breakup Revenge Body. And I just thought to myself, aren't you like aren't you older than I am? Like, I'm not saying it's pathetic. It's just kind of sad that, I mean, I don't know. It's a complicated issue because there's also the issue, I guess, of like commerce associated with it. But I get it. Like, okay, somebody broke up with you and you're like, I'm going to show them by getting a great body. But like, lady, you're old. I'm not saying you shouldn't be getting in good shape. It's quite the opposite. If anything, it's more important now than ever to ensure that your golden years can be as pleasurable as possible. But simultaneously, aren't you a little bit, you know, you should be more wise than to be worried about getting the revenge body. You should be getting the good body because, you know, it raises your quality of life. You know, makes you a happier person inside and out. Why are you trying to show, you know, some dentist who lives in Tuscaloosa what he's missing, you know? I suppose there's no accounting for human nature to some degree, but like, I generally, like, when I saw that, I was just like, man, it was more like, it was less that I was like, oh, I'm so mad the Kardashians. I was more just like, are these ladies okay? Either way, she's laughing all the way to the bank, like, you know, in the end, that book, for sure, whether rightfully or otherwise, cough, cough, will make more money than me or probably like 3 generations of my descendants will make over the course of their entire lives. I'm at peace with that. However, simultaneously, I was just like, come on. I don't mean you're old like you're an old grandma, stop caring about your body. I just mean like you're old, stop worrying about weird revenge fantasies. Just like do yoga and, you know, get happy. It's like a normal person your age. I don't understand why it's gotta be this weirdly malevolent sort of undertone to it. Anyway, it was a good run. It was a fast run. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. If you did, click the like button. It helps out a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. See ya!